Hey fam, how are you? My name is Zarina. Welcome back to my channel. And today I want to talk to you about the culture. and every, I would say probably every generation has a culture. It has, certain music they listen to, certain words, slang words that they use, a certain, type of way that they may be dressing, how their hair may be done, etc., etc., right? The culture. So I grew up in the culture of, which I think I'm biased, but the best culture ever. Where as a teenager, I grew up with Run DMC and, all of the rap groups that actually rapped about something you could rap with them. And it wasn't a lot of curse words, and they were not demeaning women. It was the best era. That was when, I'm sitting here thinking back, and it's making me laugh. But it's when they would, pop lock and they would spin on their heads and they would do all the things, right? Cyndi Lauper was really popular. Madonna was really popular. Those are like some of the groups and things that I can remember from being in high school. And it's so interesting that a lot of those styles and the 80s have really kind of come full circle. The fluorescent colors, the bright colors, I remember a lot of that. And so I just want to talk about this culture though. This culture right here is different. And it's different. I'm trying to think of. I think this culture is one that we definitely have to safeguard the children, and it's because there's so much that's being thrown at us on TV, in our music, that is degrading women, that is depicting men as just being, foul, and not caring about women. Um, and especially, I will say, in the African American community. The music for that a lot of our rappers are singing, they unfortunately um, tend to lean towards disrespecting women more than country music and any other genre of music. It seems like our culture is targeting women in a negative way. Our culture is targeting children. When you start seeing that, you have men dressed in drag, and I would imagine that should be terrifying, because if a man is 6 feet tall and has on heels that's 5 inches, and he's dressed in something that the children probably have never even seen their own mom wear, and that's what is telling them stories at story time in school. This is what is happening now within this culture, and it just shows that the enemy has such a stronghold on our community, on our youth, on our everything. Music is can be a very beautiful thing. Music can be a very soothing thing, and music then also from the enemy can be twisted to reel you in a very demonic way. And you can see how the music and the music industry has basically defiled women. It is showing women, now almost naked in concerts, doing things on stage that the culture thinks is okay. Coming out in public with hardly any clothes on, and you're calling it self expression or freedom or whatever the case is. It's really sad because there was a time when women took such pride in their appearance and how they came out of the house and how they, were shown, especially if they were married and had children and things like that. Society has always put women at a certain pedestal, at a certain level. There's a high expectation, but now it seems that the culture, especially here in the U.S., doesn't care about the woman, doesn't care about the respect and the care and the nurture and the protection of the woman. And God is seeing all of this. And when I say he's sick and tired of being sick and tired of the foolishness that is going on in the nation, I spoke on that in a previous video. But what I definitely want to talk about is being mindful. If you are walking with the Lord, you need to be very mindful of the music that you listen to consistently, especially when it's demeaning any sex or race of people. You need to be careful about constantly listening to things where there's a lot of curse words. You are opening the door for the enemy to, slowly creep into your life in such a way that there could be some destruction that could come about that. You can find yourself now not thinking as highly of women. And I do understand that in some circumstances, women are not viewing themselves as highly as, I'm not going to even say we because I don't do it, as they ought, right? And it's because it's the culture. We keep following. If 10 people are doing it, then it must be right. So I'm going to do it too. If these 20 people over here are doing it, it must be okay because, they seem okay, so I'm going to do it too. It's knowing in your heart that it's off, it doesn't seem right, but you do it anyway because there's such a large audience of people that's following that trend. And I'm telling you, it is nothing but a means to an end with destruction. And you have to reel yourself in. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all music is bad music. That's not the point at all. Because God can actually minister and say things to you in music. I woke up the other morning out of nowhere and hadn't heard this song in a while. I did put it in my community section. But Patti LaBelle, Blessed was in my head, and I knew it was the Lord. I hadn't heard that song, and it's like, Patti, I'm not gonna sing, okay? You don't want me to do that, but basically it said when you've been blessed, it's like heaven. And this was me getting out of the bed, and I was noticing as I was getting dressed that I kept singing this one verse, and I'm thinking, where is this song coming from? I haven't heard it in I don't know how long. So I have, Alexa, and so I asked her to play the song. I couldn't even remember who sung it. That's how far back it was. And it played, and I knew that was the Father just, confirming, and showing me some love. And, I don't want you to think that the Lord has an issue with music, but he does have an issue with music that is changing the people for the bad, for the worst. It is slowly showing women that you can be free. And you don't have to have all these boundaries, and you don't need to dress a certain way. You can dress however you want to. You can be however you want to. And the envelopes keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed to where women are leaving out of the house. And I'm going to reel that in some. Even young ladies are leaving out of the house with minimal clothes on or not dressing appropriately, and and it's becoming like really sad that the younger generation is doing this, and we being ladies, that if you are older than that, I'm hoping that's not something you're doing, but we need to set the standard for younger ladies and for teenagers. And if we as grown women over 40 that is getting sucked in by the culture, that's a problem. And I'm going to tell you a story. Back some years ago, I was hanging out with some ladies, and I had known them for maybe about a year, and we were in the same ballpark age wise. And one thing, now I wasn't like tight in my walk with the Lord, but I've always carried myself as a lady, and that's how I've always preferred to be viewed, not just externally but internally, as far as how I respected myself. But these ladies that I was hanging out with, they used to refer to you know each other women, as the B word. And the B word is thrown around amongst women, and men now being able to call women B's, and women accepting it, some of them, not all. It's funny because a woman can call another woman a B just randomly, and it has now been it's become acceptable, almost like a word of endearment. But when I was growing up, if you called another female the B word, it was means for taking off your earrings and we about to fight. It's a wrap, because it was a form of disrespect, blatant disrespect. And now the culture has deemed it a term of endearment. Like, what? What? No. And so I don't allow anyone, nor do I hang around anyone where we reference each other as B. And I don't even care for the word, what is it, boss B. Men referencing women in such ways. Like, I had said in the previous video, you can't give the enemy an inch. He will not only take that inch, he'll kick the door down while you peeking through and have you knocked in the face and over on your back somewhere. So that's just something that the culture is doing that is just not acceptable. You have to put boundaries somewhere. And if you don't have some boundaries in your life, you are just out here running amok, and people are around you doing the same thing. So I will say that, because I have certain boundaries and things that I do and don't allow with people, people have always, especially men, have always respected me. Because there are just some things that I'm just not accepting. And that's a hard, as they say, on period. I want to read to you John 2, verse 15. And so in this is where Jesus is he up to here with the foolishness, right? He is up to here with the foolishness. They disrespecting. This is the culture. Remember, I said every generation, for as far back as when Jesus was walking the earth, has the culture, right? And we already know that they was doing the most even back in biblical days. So in John 2:15, it reads, "And having made a lash, a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple, both the sheep and the oxen, spilling and scattering the brokers' money and upsetting and tossing around their trays Then to those who sold, he drove. I'm sorry. Then to those who sold the doves, he said, take these things away. Make not my father's house a house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered, I'm in verse 17, and his disciples remembered that it is written in the Holy Scriptures, zeal. For your house will eat me up. I will be consumed with jealousy for the honor of your house. And, this is where, let me see. That's how you show us miracles. But this is where, Jesus just went in and showed out. And he just started, whipping, knocking over the tables, getting stuff in order. Like, what you're not going to do is come into this temple, my father's temple, with your sin and your raggediness. No, like, there has to be a boundary. And so I just want you to understand that you need to set some boundaries on how far you will allow your ears to hear certain music, how far you will allow your eyes to watch certain movies, how far you will allow your children to be involved in certain things, and how far you will allow your conversations, your thought process about, how you talk to yourself, your female friends, as a man, how you respect yourself, and the women. Men, you were brought here through a woman. Your grandmother, your aunts, you have women all around you. You guys have to be better. And it is becoming very sad that there are men now that just do not respect women, blatantly do not respect women, will not help or protect them. And this is not for all the men. This is only for those that are convicted and know that they have a certain mindset towards women. And I do understand that there are some women that have low self-esteem and no respect for themselves. But that still doesn't warrant you mistreating, disrespecting a woman. Be better than that. God has created man to be a covering for women, to be protection over women, whether she is your wife, your mother, your aunt, your grandmother. Stand in the gap, stand up for us. And even if you see a young lady that is just disrespecting herself, try as you can, as you might, to say something in love, in respect. Because if there are men that are not there for their daughters. And so girls are looking for a father figure, especially if they don't know Christ. That's why it's so important, fathers, to stay by your children, stay by your daughters and your sons as well. The world is coming to eat up the kids. And moms, I said before, these are not your friends, okay? Go find you some friends your age. These are not your friends. We don't care if they don't like us. That is a part of being a parent. Like me later. Right now, I need you to do what I say, and not when you feel like it, do it now. And that's pretty much how I raised my kids. And my sons are very respectful, probably too protective of me. But they honor me because I have honored them, and I have respected them as young men, because I knew I was raising men that would one day be someone's father, and I want to be an example of what a woman should be like, and how a woman should act, and how a woman should talk and respect her sons. So I'm just going to leave you guys with that. pay attention to the culture. Don't let it reel you in so far, because I'm telling you, it is a ploy of the enemy to have us so distracted, to have us so like with blinders on, only dealing with whatever looks good, fun, and exciting in the culture. And I know Beyonce is out here with her concerts currently, and I'm not gonna get too far into that. But if you a Christian, you don't have no business at all at that concert. I mean that. You have no business at that concert. I don't care if you're a baby Christian or full grown, mature Christian. No business, because there is a agenda at that concert that is beyond what you can handle. I'm telling you, if you have paid money, I don't even care. Call it a loss. You done probably spent money and lost money on foolishness. Let this be one as well. And you probably, if you're a Christian going to the Beyonce concert, I find it surprising that the Lord hasn't convicted you about that. If he has not, that means you're not close enough to the Father. You're not in relationship with the Father. You need to go back and check out my relationship video if that's the case. But either way, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Because that one right there, and I know the beehive is real, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say because it's my channel and it needs to be said. And sometimes we walk gingerly with people, and I'm going to serve you some meat. And if you want to be bottle fed, it might be a different channel or a different video. But you know, some of these videos are going to have meat on the plate and truth. And that is why God is calling people, because you guys need to know the truth. Anyway, you know, I'm going to leave you with that one. I had another verse. And I spoke on this other verse, you know, in the previous video. It was Ezekiel 9:1-7. And in this one, I'm not going to read all of that because I'm closing out right here. But this is where, you know, in here, the Spirit cried out, my ears and vision, loud voice. This is where the Lord, this is before Jesus came, and the Lord had the 6 men, and they were executioners, and one had the ink, and he put the you know, on the forehead of the anointed ones and the prophets, and said, these people don't touch. The rest of them will wipe them out. So there's a time when the Lord just gets sick and tired of being sick and tired of our foolishness, of our rebellion. So get yourselves together, okay? Because thank God for Jesus, because God God was like, I'll clean all of this out, you know. So thank God for Jesus coming, and he intercedes on our behalf. And, you know, I'm going to leave you guys with that. I wish you all well. I hope you guys are all doing good, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.